Hey guys, it's Joel and welcome back to the channel. If you're new here, this is my 2004 BMW Z4 and I've got a big wallet here with me with all of the receipts and stuff that I've had, well actually since before the car was in my ownership, but also, and mainly what we're going to talk about today, since the car has been in my ownership, because I thought it would be an interesting topic and video to discuss exactly how much money the Z4 has cost me in maintenance and repairs over the 2 or almost 3 years, gosh, yeah, 2.5 years that I've had the car. So yeah, make sure you're subscribed if you're new here, because this is going to be an interesting video. And also, just thought I'd let you know now that in the coming days, literally in about 2 days time, I'm jumping on a 747 across the Atlantic to Los Angeles, where I will be, well actually going for the KSI versus Logan Paul fight. If other of you watch YouTube, you'll know what that is. But I'm there for almost a week, so I'm renting a very cool car, which I teased on my Instagram, and we're doing a little road trip, so stay tuned for that. But anyway, that's enough of me blabbering. Let's, I guess, have a look inside this wallet. And actually, this will be interesting for me, because I'm going to add up really how much this car has cost me to maintain and repair over the years. So let's do it. Now, if you have been following and watching the channel for a while, you'll know my car very well, because I have featured it a lot on this channel. It is largely what this channel revolves around at the moment. So I'll just point out that this video I'm going to be talking, well, I'm going to be talking about everything I've spent, but you will know, most of you, that it's not really on any cosmetic stuff. You'll notice, if you're new here, that I've got a few issues, like my light here is all cloudy. I'm missing the, I guess, the light washer caps on both sides. And also, you know, my alloys, they're obviously really, really dirty at the moment, but they're not in the finest condition. They have been curved, or curbed, should I say. And also, while I'm around the front, you'll notice the paintwork. These little white spots here are actually just chips, and there's some pretty bad stuff. There's also a few cosmetic scuffs, like down here on the sort of bottom lip, and I think even on the other side there is some here as well, if you can see that. So look, it's not cosmetically sound, and there's a lot of money that could be spent on fixing cosmetic bits, but I won't go into that into this video. We're just going to talk about what I have spent on sort of maintaining it mechanically. Anything else that's wrong with it? Yeah, there's a little bit of cosmetic damage on the rear bumper as well. Oh, and also my aerial, well, is non-existent. I've explained that in previous content too. Actually, just inside the car as well, I think it's unlocked. Here we go. Oh, it's my smoked salmon sandwich. I need to eat that. The glove box, you can see some gaffer tape there. I've put that there because if I open this, it will just fall out. So that is just a measure to really keep it intact. Apart from that, there's not really anything else. What I'm saying is, you will notice that all of the maintenance and repairs I'm talking about in today's video are just sort of mechanical, and you'll be wondering why I haven't repaired, maybe some of you, the cosmetic bits, but there's reasons for that which I won't go into, like I say. But yeah, I thought I'd point them out. They're all the cosmetic issues with the car. Well, I'm going to get inside the car actually, as the weather is so miserable, and talk to you about what I have spent so far. Okay, so in the car now, thankfully, the weather is absolutely horrendous. I've got this wallet here which just says Z4 Black on it, and this is basically my collection of receipts since I've owned the car, and like I say, some in there from before ownership. There is a owner's book where I've got all my service stamps. I don't have that with me, I don't think, but I will say I don't think it's full service history on this car. It is partial. I certainly have kept every single receipt since I've owned the car, because I like to sort of, well, there's no reason not to, is there, if you can? So yeah, but anyway, before we get into it, if you're watching this video and you're someone that also owns a Z4, when we get to the end, I would actually be really interested to hear what you guys have spent as well. Obviously, you don't have to give numbers. Not everyone wants to talk about money. But yeah, like, mention things that you've actually had to fork out for that perhaps I haven't. That would be interesting to know, because from my perspective, and also from talking to fellow owners, some of yourselves, I found that these cars are tremendously reliable on the whole. And hopefully this will sort of share that as well. And then obviously, if you're someone watching this video and you've clicked on it because you've seen Z4 and you're thinking of getting one, and you're just interested in how much these actually cost to run, then I really hope you guys find this interesting. I'm going to be totally honest with everything, as I have been with my cosmetic issues, and as I am in every video really, and just tell you exactly what I've spent and on what. So I'll try and make this as brief as possible. Let's go for it. So here we are then. I've got all of the receipts in chronological order, and what I'm actually going to do is also consider the cost of the vehicle as well. So how much money I've actually lost in sort of owning the car and depreciation. I've got no problem sharing exactly what I paid for this and when. So kicking it right back then to the 30th of March 2017, I bought this car for £3,550. The car, I don't think it says on here, but it was, I remember, on about 103,000 miles. So there you go, there's the first big expenditure, is actually buying the car. But obviously that's not one to really consider in terms of maintenance. But yeah, the car cost me £3,500, which is interesting because if I was to sell it tomorrow, how much would I actually lose? It's not for me to say, I haven't really done the research, but not a massive amount, certainly nothing compared to if I bought a much newer example. Okay, and then the first expenditure I had, not very exciting this, car mats. I bought some Z4 car mats at the grand total of £18. That obviously isn't something that everyone would have to maintain, but it is something I bought for this car. The next was one of the, well, probably the biggest bill I've ever had on this car. When I first bought it, like I say, didn't have full service history, it didn't come with a warranty, so I decided to get it fully serviced at a BMW specialist, and that came to a grand total of £619.01. What did they do on that? There wasn't anything in particular. They did have to replace, looking at this, the alternator drive belt as it was perished. Obviously they did all of the checks. They did a brake fluid change and they did a coolant flush and change as well, which is pretty standard. Other things they had to change: the oil filter, pollen filter, I think these are all service items. Alternator belt was changed, and that is it. Brake fluid, yeah, like I say. So that was £619. I do think is the biggest expenditure I've ever actually had on this car. On to the next one then, another really exciting one. I replaced my windscreen wipers. I bought some Bosch windscreen wipers and that cost me £20.99. Next up then, this was something I did fairly early on. Excuse me, I'm just going to have a sip of my coffee. This was something I did fairly early on because I wasn't enjoying the ride quality too much from the run flat tyres. I've talked about that a lot on this channel, or not a lot, I've done a video or two on it. So I decided to basically switch all of my tyres when they're a bit worn for conventional non-run flats. I went for Goodyear Eagle F, where does it say it? Goodyear Eagle F1 asymmetric 3s. That came to a cost for all four corners as £323.96. Money really well spent. It definitely improved the ride quality, and I could remember actually going around corners. You could almost go twice as fast around a corner without becoming unstuck. So it really did make a massive difference. You can obviously get Michelin Pilot Sports, they're a level above. I still actually have these same tyres on the fronts. They're barely worn actually. The rears I've replaced maybe 3 times now. Next one then, looks like I had the discs and pads at the front and the discs and pads at the rear done. This was in June of 2017, so I spent quite a lot. This is all chronological, so between purchasing the car right at the end of March and June, I think we're well over £1,000 in what I've spent. So 12th of June 2017, I spent £222.10 on doing all the brakes. They weren't obviously the most expensive ones. It wasn't a BMW specialist that did this. You'd think it might be a little bit more, but yeah, £222.10 to renew the brake discs and pads all around. Okay, so that was the last one from 2017. Bear in mind, so between April and June 2017, within about 3 months of buying the car, I spent quite a lot of money on, as you can see, the service, fixing everything up, like an alternator belt and brake fluid. I had the brakes changed and the tyres done as well. So that probably, I'll add it up when I'm editing this video, but that came to over £1,000. The next bill I've got isn't until July of 2018. So over a year, 13 months in fact, of spending nothing on maintaining the car, apart from oil and petrol and things like that, which I will put a little figure in for at the end. So here we go. So yes, July of 2018, I spent £271.57 on a service, and that was the oil filter, air filter, wear sensor at the front, and brake pad as well. Next up, we're still in 2018, but in September, I did my rear tyres. I replaced those. They'd gone bald. I've been having too much fun on the roundabouts and making videos for you guys. So I spent £116.78 on 2 rear tyres. So bear in mind, those Goodyears that I originally put on the car, they were about 85, 83 pounds a corner. These 55 pounds a corner, or just above. So quite a lot cheaper. I am a cheapskate. The reason I did do that is because I sort of know how much I'm burning through rubber, and it seems a bit silly. Well, not silly, but I'm being tight. I didn't want to spend an extra 60, 70 pounds on better tyres if I knew I was going to burn through them in 6 months. Right, so next one is October of 2018. This is an interesting one. This is one that I featured in some videos on here. It was when my diesel valve went wrong. Now, that was an interesting one because it was the first thing something like that had happened to a car for me, and I didn't know what it was. I thought it could be the MAF sensor. We eventually found out it was the diesel valve. Now, I know that you can, and you guys obviously let me know at the time, you can actually get a diesel valve repair kit, which is way under 100 quid, and it basically solves the issue. However, I was so desperate to get the car fixed. It was a Sunday. We'd identified the issue. I rung BMW in Cobham, or I rung a load of BMWs and found out that BMW in Cobham had a diesel valve in their warehouse. So I went and bought that because it was the immediacy of it. I could literally go and get it, replace the car, and the car was seamless after I'd done that. So I don't regret spending this at all, but this part did cost me £250 and 96 pence. Car hasn't skipped a beat since. The car is still, well, it has with some other things, as we'll get into, but the diesel valve's absolutely fine still. I do want to take it back out and check that it's not, you know, perished and sticky again. But yeah, that was £250 96. So that's really the first thing that went wrong on the car. Obviously in that initial service there was a couple of bits that needed fixing and replacing, but in terms of my ownership, it was a good year and a half before something went wrong on the car, and that was the diesel valve and £250 96 pence. Next up, we are in 2019, so nothing else in 2018. There was a couple of suspension bits that needed doing. So on here it says they renewed the front right stabiliser link and the parts with the anti-roll bar link for front left or right. Cost £66 66 pence. That definitely needed doing because I remember driving the car and hearing sort of dragging along the floor. It felt like, what did it feel like? It felt like there was a metal pole attached to the bottom of my car and it was just dragging along. I was worried at first actually that was the gearbox, but thank goodness it wasn't. So that was £66 66 for something that went wrong. Next up, we're on to the last service I had, which was of July this year. I barely remember doing that now. It was a full service. They had to renew the ancillary drive belt. They renewed all the spark plugs, and we had a new budget tyre as well because I'd already gone through the tyres again, or one of them, and that cost me £393. And the last receipt I've got in my hand was from just a few weeks back now. It was, well, actually it was a couple of months back. It was when I had all of those issues with my expansion tank and my coolant, which again I featured on the channel. We got to the bottom of it. They renewed obviously all of the coolant, the fluid itself. They changed out the expansion tank and they replaced one of the expansion tank spacers which was leaking. That came to a grand total of £132 22 pence. Now, that's all of those. I don't actually know what that's come to because, like I said, I'm just reading them out for the first time. I'll add these up some way or another in the edit. There are, foolishly, a couple of other receipts I realise I don't have with me because they're quite recent. Number one was the expansion tank went wrong again about a month after this one, and they replaced, oh gosh, they replaced the expansion tank because it had started leaking, so that was covered on warranty of the actual part, and they also replaced one of the rubber tubes going into the expansion tank as part of the coolant system because that had a split in it. So that was maybe another 60 quid because I had to pay for the rubber part. And then most recently, as in literally a couple of weeks ago, I had my coolant light come back on again, and I was so peed off because this would have been the third time in maybe 2 months that it had gone wrong, the same issue. And although it's costly and you're spending money, it was actually just more annoying because I would spend any amount of money, but I just wanted to get the car fixed, so I would have just spent whatever it was to get it fixed. I kept doing that and it kept going wrong. However, the coolant light came on, I rung up my garage and said, look, have it back, it's doing it again, I don't know what parts you're using, use a different one, blah de blah de blah. So they took it in, put it on the ramp. Obviously they then phoned me and they said it's not the expansion tank, that's not leaking. They actually said initially they thought it could have been my head gasket, which was very concerning, and I thought I was going to be having to film a video going goodbye Z4. That's not the case. It was my thermostat. My thermostat had gone. I've actually got the old thermostat housing in the boot. Yeah, that had gone. So they replaced the thermostat, and they also said that my water pump's probably going to need replacing at some point too. So that came to, off the top of my head, about 170 quid, and that was literally a week or two ago. Since then, touch some wood, the car has been running absolutely fine. It's going in for an MOT next week when I'm in Los Angeles, and fingers crossed that'll all be good as well. So I don't actually know how much the total is. I will add that up in the edit of this video, so you guys probably know at this point. So that's really interesting actually. All in all, the car, this Z4, has been very reliable. Like I say, the only things that have gone wrong are, the only things that have failed are the diesel valve and the coolant system. Both very common issues. Nothing out of the ordinary has gone wrong with this car. And if actually you just talk about the diesel valve and the coolant issues, you're talking at less than 500 quid for mechanical failures that I've had to fork out for. Everything else, like the tyres, they are really just general wear and tear, and again it varies on how much money you want to spend on tyres and how much it is. Suspension and the brakes, again, wear and tear. The suspension, the car is high mileage, so that was inevitable, but I've not had to do clutch, I've not had to do flywheel, I've not had any other serious engine issues. Like I say, water pump's probably just around the corner, which we're talking another couple of £100. However, I think that's really not too bad if you just think about the things that have gone wrong. It's been so reliable. In terms of my ownership, like I say, I've had this car from March or April basically of 2017. So we're talking about a good 2.5 years. I have done, the car is now on, I can't see because the ignition's off, I think it's on about 147,000 miles. So like I say, I bought it at around 103. I've done near as 45,000 miles on the car, and to only have those couple of things go wrong, I'm personally happy with. I think it's been very reliable. All the other servicing things that make it probably a grand total of around 2k, they are things that I probably would have had to do on most cars, any car that I bought. So not too bad. Let me know your opinion down below. The last thing, of course, is I bought this car for £3,500. Now I would imagine, being totally honest, in the car's condition, cosmetically as we've seen, it's not the best. This car and the mileage, this car's probably 2.5k on a good day. I don't really know. I don't want to say it because if I do come to sell this car, I want to basically be able to sell it for what it's worth, and that could change depending on the season and how high in demand the cars are. But let's face it, it's probably worth about 2.5 on a good day right now. So if you think about that, over 2.5 years, I've only lost £1,000 if we're going off that figure on the cost, the actual value of the car, which is fantastic, because if you take that over 2.5 years, you're talking about £350, £380 a year, again off the top of my very small head. So look, not bad at all, not bad at all. I think this has been really interesting actually. It's opened my eyes a little bit into how much I've actually spent, because it's about you guys, but you sort of, at the times, these bills you're very aware of, and they sort of just then go into a thing and you forget about them. But when you sort of add them all up, which is the first time I have done this, it's quite interesting to see how much I've actually spent, you know, £2,000 potentially. Well, there we have it, guys. I hope you've enjoyed that and found it interesting. I certainly have. Make sure you're subscribed if you're not already. Like I say, I've got some really cool content coming up in the States in the coming days, which I personally, some of my favourite content to make, and I really just want as many of you guys to be able to see that and share that passion with me as possible. So if you are subscribed, make sure you tune into those videos, and if you're not already, do subscribe, pop that bell on so you know when they come live. Other than that, make sure you comment below if you're a fellow Z4 owner, the sort of things that you've had to fix excuse me, over your ownership. I'd be really interested to know. And also, if you are someone that doesn't own a Z4, or you own something similar, or you're thinking about owning a Z4, I really do hope that you found this insightful and interesting. And I would also like to know your opinions on, you know, is that an acceptable amount of money to have to spend on maintaining a car? I personally think for the car that I'm getting, it really is. So apologies in advance if I have forgotten anything. Maybe I'll leave a comment down below if I have. That, as far as I'm aware, is the gist of it. There are a few little bits and bobs I can think of now, but then barely worth mentioning. One of them, which was my wing mirror, that cost 300 quid. I had to get a replacement, but that was just because someone crashed into me and decided to drive off. So that's not something I'd need to include in this video. Anyway, thank you so much for watching. I hope it's not been too long. Like I say, I hope you found it really interesting. Thank you so much if you're a regular supporter of the channel. It's great. That's why I keep coming back and making videos, because people actually watch them. So thank you so much, guys, and I will see you, probably the next time I see you will be from Los Angeles. So take care, and I will see you very, very soon.